Listeners, welcome back to the podcast. I'm delighted today to have Justin Moore here. Justin is someone who I was wanting to speak to for a long time on the podcast, and I'm really delighted to have you here today, Justin.
Yo, what's up, David? Stoked to be here, man.
Awesome. Brilliant. Justin, I'm sure a lot of my audience already know exactly who you are, but just in case they don't, can you tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do, and what sort of got you to this point in your journey?
Absolutely, man. So my name is Justin Moore. First, most important thing about me is that I was in a metal band in high school. Okay. Nice. So I'm not just some like lame guy out here on the internet. Like I got some cred. Okay. So yeah, I run a business called Creator Wizard. And we help people find and negotiate their dream brand partnerships. So we focus specifically on sponsorship education and coaching. And the way that this started is my wife, April, actually started a YouTube channel 16 years ago now. So actually 17 years ago now, crazy. And so this was way back in the day before you could really make income on YouTube, especially. And so it very much was like a passion project for her for a long time. And so I was, going in the traditional corporate career path. I was an engineer by my background. And so when April first started uploading videos on the internet, pretty quickly brands started reaching out, not offering to pay her, but offering to give her free stuff in exchange for like a post on her platforms. Right. And we were, young in our early 20s at that time. And so we were like, free stuff, let's go. Like we were like, yeah, send it over. Right. And it was that way for years, dude. It wasn't like we got wise after like a month or two. It was like, no, 3-4 years. Yeah. Free stuff, send it over. And so what happened was I decided to go back to business school at night after work to get my MBA. And I started taking these classes all around advertising and negotiation and sales and marketing and all that. And kind of the gears started turning for me. And I went back to April after one night and I was like, like if we look at your videos, you're getting hundreds of comments on every single post saying, oh, thank you so much for telling me about that product or that brand. I just went to the store and got it, or I just went to their site and picked it up. Thanks for the tip. And I was like, honey, I think like a free $30 hair curler is not adequate compensation relative to the value that you're providing to these brands. I think we're getting the short end of the stick here. And I was like, okay, next brand that reaches out, let's ask if they have a budget to collaborate with you. And she's like, there's no way anyone's going to pay me money. I was like, come on, let's just try it. And so sure enough, next brand that reached out, she hit him with you have a budget to collaborate with me? And they said, oh yeah, sure. If you can talk about us in 2 videos a month, we will pay you $700 monthly. We were like, our minds just like exploded. And our immediate thought was, how can we find 10 more brands just like this? Right. And so that fast forward, that was just like a small catalyst that led to this massive success over the next 10, 15 years, where we have now made over $5 million working with brands. That's across close to 600 individual sponsorships. So lots and lots of volume of deals. That led to me starting an influencer marketing agency where I started getting deals for other creators. I ran that company for 7 years. And now over the last 5 years, I've been educating creators and coaching them directly on how to land more lucrative brand partnerships. So it's been a wild ride.
Love it. Yeah, no, been following what you've been doing. Watch your YouTube channel, read your stuff. I've got your book, which came out last year, I think. And you've got lots of other awesome things in the works, which we're going to talk about, obviously, in this call. What would you say, Justin, for anyone who's listening to this straight away, who has a smaller audience? So they've got maybe under 1,000 email subscribers, maybe even less than that. Can someone with a small audience still land a sponsorship deal, do you think?
I'm glad we're starting here because there's that question that you just asked, I think, in a lot of people's minds, but also one that I think we need to address even before that, which is that I'm not an influencer, right? I'm writing on Substack, or I'm not dancing on the internet. I don't make video content. I don't have a podcast. I'm just a writer. How is this even for me? And I want to start here first because actually a large concentration of the people that I help are writers. They're authors. They're writing on the internet because there are brands and companies that would want to get in front of your audience, but not just that. I think a lot of people think that when they think of a traditional sponsorships, it's like, I will talk about the brand on my platform, right? I'll insert them into an ad break in my newsletter or on my Substack or whatever. And a lot of times what I teach people is that your writing prowess, your abilities can serve brands in a lot of other ways. For example, if you are someone who has, like you said, less than 1,000 followers or average readership or something like that, and you were to go reach out to a brand or a sponsor and say, hey, let me talk about you in my next piece, that brand likely, unless you're like a super niche writer, like writing about B2B healthcare or something, and there's a small handful of companies that would want to get in front of this super concentrated audience, that's a different story. But like if you were to reach out to them and just as a kind of a generic writer in a high level category, they're going to take one look at your footprint and say, it's probably not going to move the needle. Or they're going to say, sure, we'll give you $20 or $50 or $100 or something, which again, like, is that really worth it at that point? And so my take is when you're at the beginning of your journey and you're still trying to grow, what you propose to the brand as part of that collaboration should change. So rather than say to them, hey, let me insert you into an ad break in my newsletter or on my Substack, you go and you take a look at their footprint, their content marketing footprint on the internet and say, do they have a blog? Do they have a newsletter? Are they posting things on X or LinkedIn or Threads or something like that? And if they don't, maybe they do have a presence, but it's not great, right? It's like marketing speak and no customer's ever going to really care about that. What I would propose to them is I would go to them and say, hey, love your brand, but I think you could be telling your brand story in a more compelling way. I would love to ghostwrite some articles on your blog. I will start a newsletter for you. You've got this 25,000 customer list. Are you even emailing them anything other than like, the latest feature or promotion? If not, that's a terrible way to nurture your clients. Let me help you do that. And so now all of a sudden the brand thinks, and by the way, what you say at that point is like, hey, go take a look at my Substack or go take a look at my newsletter because that serves as my portfolio. That I can actually do this for you. So that's when you're at the beginning. Let's say you grow now, you're getting 1 to 10,000 or 1 to 5,000, average, impressions or views or something on your articles. Then what you propose to the brand is going to be a hybrid. It's probably going to be a bit of content for them to use, maybe some consulting or advising on their content strategy. And then, maybe posting about them on your newsletter or your Substack starts becoming meaningful. Now, let's say you've grown, you're crushing it. You're scaled, you're 10,000 plus 100,000. You're getting a huge amount of eyeballs on your stuff. Yeah, the thrust of what you propose to them can be that you talk about them on your platforms. And so I talk about this concept in my book, Sponsor Magnet, as you mentioned. This is called the sponsorship continuum. So it's like, where am I at in my journey? Because what you pitch and who you pitch and what you pitch has to change.
Love it. Amazing answer. Yeah, I think that's so good. And I have actually seen people do that on Substack where they're starting to approach people and say LinkedIn and offer to ghostwrite some stuff for them and then kind of phase them into their ecosphere on Substack. Justin, you mentioned Sponsor Magnet, and you mentioned something in that book called the rope method. So I think it's relevant, organic, proof, and easy to execute. I hope we got that right. Can you break down exactly what that process looks like and how does it make a brand pitch irresistible?
Yeah. So first, we need to dissect what a pitch is, because I think if you've never done this, if you've never reached out to a company or a brand and asked them to collaborate with you, it feels like a very intimidating process, right? There's a lot of head junk that comes alongside this. What if they say no? What if, what if they laugh in my face? What if they don't respond? I'm going to feel sheepish and look like an idiot. So there's a lot. I want to acknowledge that first, that there's a lot of, head junk. I had that for sure in the early days when we first started reaching out to brands. But what you have to understand is that when you approach it from a perspective of service, like I am trying to serve this partner and help them accomplish their business outcomes, it becomes a lot less scary, because now it's like, okay, well, if they don't want my help, that's fine. It's kind of their loss, because I was going to help them really move the needle on like growing their LinkedIn strategy or whatever, like you mentioned. So let's just first start there, which is just like you really kind of have nothing to lose here. And the brand is really losing if they say no. So when it comes to a pitch, if you were to reach out to a brand, there's two main components that you need to consider. It's who you send it to and what you say. Both are equally important, but the what you say often trips people up the most. And so that's where this pitching methodology that I mentioned in my book, Sponsor Magnet, the rope method, comes into play, as you mentioned. So let's kind of dissect the four components of a successful pitch. So R is relevant. Your pitch has to be relevant to a campaign that they're either currently running or have run in the past. O stands for organic, meaning that you could tie your pitch back to organic work that you've already published that illustrates that your audience has existing affinity.
Mm.
for their brand or that category of services that they provide. Not that you've used their tool or you love their tool. They don't care about that. They care, does your audience, right?
Mm.
The P is proof, so you can show how you've helped other brands achieve results. And E stands for easy to execute. So you're actually pitching them something
Mm.
very specific. You're not saying, oh, we'd love to figure out a way to collaborate. No, you're pitching them something very concrete. Let's start with the R in the relevant. I think this is really important because a lot of I've seen thousands of pitches. When I ran my agency, I would get a lot of inbound from creators and entrepreneurs and things wanting collaborations.
Mm.
And I would say in virtually 99% of situations, these pitches start about them.
Mm.
It's all about them. It's like, I have, this Substack. I write about this. I have this many followers. I get this many average impressions or comments on my posts, blah, 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 blah. And so most brands read that and they just delete the email because they don't care. They don't care that you have this large following. There's lots of people that have large followings on the internet. They're thinking, how is this relevant to me? That's their only question. And so what I teach is that the very first sentence of your outreach has to be specifically about something that they care about in their universe. So maybe this is something that they're posting on their LinkedIn about a marketing trade show that they're going to be attending, or some new big product launch, that they're really excited about, this AI feature that they just launched, or maybe it's a new market that they've entered. And so that's the first line of the email. It's, hey, I saw that you are trying to do XYZ.
Mm.
And that's the first sentence. It's not about you. Don't introduce yourself. They don't care. Right. And then you transition into the next sentence is the organic. So you could say, I saw you trying to do X. I have also been talking about why XYZ is important, relevant to the thing that they care about. And then you link that organic post that you made that is relevant to that campaign. And if you're listening to this or watching this thinking, okay, but what if I don't have an organic piece that's like kind of relevant to this brand? Well, then you write a piece ahead of time before you pitch them. And it's still going to serve your readers. It's still going to serve your audience because it's an interesting post, but you're being strategic here. You're planning out your content strategy for the next year or whatever, 6 months or whatever. You say, okay, I'm going to write this post because it's relevant. And I know I'm going to use this in a month when I pitch, this other brand over here. So that's the O part of the rope. And then, by the way, they can click through. They can see the types of people that are engaging on that post. They can learn more about your audience, right? The P in the so you've got two more components, right? You've got the proof and the easy to execute. So you've got those two sentences already. And then the next thing is you're going to jump right into exactly what you're going to do for them. You say, I would love to do, 3 sponsored Substack posts. I can turn around the first piece within 7 days for your review. I'll grant you the rights to repurpose this on your blog or in your newsletter, for the next 6 months. Happy to share some results of how I've helped brand, this other brand in a similar category achieve results. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about this? That's the pitch. You don't give them any information about your following, about your demographics. They don't care about any of that. You can get to that if you whet their palate, but the whole purpose of this is to hook them. Get your foot in the door, make it very easy for them to just say yes or no, right? You've given them something very tangible to react to, and then you can have a deeper conversation.
Love that. That's such good advice. I've definitely been super guilty in the past of being that person who reaches out and says, here's my audience, isn't it great? What you want to sponsor me, work with me? That's so good. I think we're bad at that as writers, I think, in terms of thinking about what the other person is going to benefit from and not just thinking about how awesome our audience is and stuff and how they want to work with us. In writing Sponsor Magnet, Justin, and again, just to pitch this again, because I read the book, it's so good. I've got it on my Kindle somewhere in this room. What surprised you about that process? Whenever you sat down to write the book, what did you discover about yourself and about your process and about maybe what you've been doing for years at that stage?
Man, such a great question. So full disclosure, like I very much, prior to writing this book, did not consider myself a writer or an author. I consider myself a YouTuber. That's like that's the title. That I think it's because that's how we got our start. Right. I'm just like very comfortable in that format. But what I discovered over the course of educating people is that everyone learns differently. Right. I learn really well through video because that's just my comfort level. But I started listening to my audience. They would come to me and say, Justin, I love your videos, but like I'm so busy. I don't have time to like watch this. I would love to read more about these concepts that you're talking about. I said, okay, let me take these transcripts and turn them into blog posts. That was the first thing. And then I thought, okay, I got feedback. Okay, the blog post is great, but like, I'm not going to check your blog every day or every week. Can you just send these to my inbox? Okay, great. Let me turn the blog post and put them into a newsletter, right? And then people said, Justin, I love this stuff in the newsletter, but I would love to consume this while I'm commuting. I still have a full-time job. I'm still trying to side hustle this thing. Man, it'd be so great to like listen to this. Okay, great. Let me start a podcast, right? And so I kept like changing or adding modalities of the content formats to my business based on what my audience was asking of me. And so I sat down and I thought to myself, what are other big ways in which people learn? Well, it's writing a book. It's reading a book, reading. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to hone my chops in this. And so I put in the work, man. I listened to every single freaking book on writing, On Writing by Stephen King and Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. And like every single, I probably read 30 books all about writing. And so I really immersed myself in the craft. And I just did the hard work, dude. I sat down, I put a block on my calendar for 2 hours every single day, Monday through Friday for 8 months. And I just wrote, I bought a 2-hour hourglass, this massive hourglass that I just turned it over. I put my phone on D&D. And I just pounded it out. Just like any other project, I was like, this is a project. I'm going to make it happen. And dude, so much came out of that process from like new insights when I really had to stick, and sit there and get writer's block and like, what do I really want to say here? And it felt like a codification of everything that I've been teaching over the last like 5 years. And it's probably like the most proud work that the other really interesting thing about writing a book is that it's so giftable or it's so easily recommendable. Very like for a long time, I thought like, oh, I have all these free like posts and like newsletters and videos and all that. And like if someone wants to recommend my work to someone, won't they just like send my YouTube channel or whatever? But like that, like you land on my YouTube channel, I have hundreds of videos. A lot of people are overwhelmed. Like, which one do I watch? Like, is this going to work for me? Is this going to work for me? But a book is such a perfect encapsulation of here, boom, here's a distillation of everything I know about this subject. It's so easy for someone to recommend, oh yeah, go to Amazon, go listen to that or go read that book. And so, yeah, anyone listening or writing, I probably don't have to, I'm preaching to the choir here for a lot of you folks, but like maybe you haven't wrote a book. Maybe you're like primarily like a writer on Substack or whatever, and you haven't done this. Man, it's the single best thing I've done for my business and career for sure.
Brilliant. And you said you're not a writer, you don't consider yourself that way, but it's a very, very well written book. It's a very, very good book. Super clear.
I appreciate that, dude.
Yeah, no, honestly, I genuinely mean that. Like it's so clear, like going through it, just taking those principles you described, things you've already talked about already. Anyone who wants to learn how to get sponsorship deals, to monetize things in terms of the writing and stuff like that, it's a book you definitely need to pick up, and I'll put a link to it in the podcast show notes as well.
Dude, thank you. Can I give 2 shout outs here for that?
You actually? Sure can. Yep.
The framework or the book that I read that I followed to a T to structure this book was called Write Useful Books by Rob Fitzpatrick.
Nice.
It's a fantastic book. If you're looking to write a nonfiction book, a prescriptive nonfiction book, that's the framework that I followed. And then also I can credit 120 beta readers with why the book is so clear, because my first draft was awful, dude. They shredded it to heck. And it was a scary process, like sending out 1 chapter at a time to my beta readers, but it was the best thing I ever did because it really shaped what the book ultimately became.
Yeah. I'm a fiction writer, so I know what it's like when you finally give it out to your readers and you're just waiting for them to reply about it, and it's so nerve-wracking. But yeah, I love that, and definitely if you're listening, make sure you check out the other books that Justin mentioned and put those in the show notes as well, so you can get them more easily. Justin, pivoting back again to sponsorships. If someone is thinking about pricing a sponsorship, so let's say the conversation has initiated with a brand and they're interested, how would you advise someone to go about pricing the content that they create for that brand?
Yeah, so there's a tendency, the conventional wisdom is to have some sort of media kit or rate card or place on your website where someone could just go and use a Stripe link and just, $200 insertion in my newsletter or in the blog post or whatever, which is an absolutely awful idea. If there's one takeaway that you get from this episode, it's drag that page into the trash and light it on fire and just dance around the blaze. Okay. Don't ever do that, because how do you know whether that brand would have been willing to pay you 10 times what the rate that you cooked up in a vacuum. And so the advice that I give instead is, hopefully you can have some sort of conversation with the brand and say, hey, what does success look like for you? What are you trying to accomplish with this partnership? That it's a very simple question that most people don't even ask. And you'll find out some very interesting things when brands respond, because brand's going to respond differently. A lot of people think, well, they're going to say sales, or trial signups for this new software program, or leads, drive us leads, or some metric, right? Some very conversion focused metric. But what I talk about in the book is that there's actually 3 goals that brands have when they collaborate, and it just depends on the campaign. So I call it my ARC framework, ARC. So A stands for awareness, meaning that the brand is really just looking to spread the word. As I mentioned, it's a new territory that they're launched in now. They just want to spread the word about that, a new feature, a new benefit. R in the ARC framework is repurposing. So the primary reason that they'd want to hire you, David, is for you to take the work that you generate and, again, publish it on their blog, or put in their newsletter, or put on their LinkedIn or something like that, or the CEO of the company's LinkedIn, or as a ghostwriter or something, right? And then the C is conversion, as we mentioned, sales, app downloads, trial signups, something very attributable and measurable. And the reason that you need to ascertain this from the brand is that your pricing has to change. So let me quickly describe why this is by working backwards. So I ran this agency for many years, and so I can speak with authority on the math that these brands and companies are thinking about when they want to forge a collaboration. So let's say that a brand reached out and wants to sponsor your podcast, David, right? They say, oh, great, you got this, great psychographics for the podcast. We're trying to reach writers with this new AI writing tool, whatever. And they say, okay, we know that on average, David gets 10,000 downloads on an episode in the first 30 days. I don't know what your numbers are. I'm just making for easy math, 10,000 downloads. Okay. And if we assume that, let's say 10% of the people who listen to this episode click the link that he has in the show notes for our tool, that's 1,000 people, right? 10%. Of the 1,000 people that hit our landing page about our software tool, let's assume that 25% of them sign up for a free trial. That's 250 people, right? Of the 250 people, let's assume that 20% actually convert into a paid member. So that's 50 people. Out of the 10,000 that listen to the episode, 50. And we know that our software costs $10 a month. And on average, the retention for that customer is 10 months. So the average lifetime value, or LTV of a single customer, is $100. So that's 50 customers times $100. $5,000 is the max they're going to pay you, David. But and guess what? They don't want to pay you $5,000. That's the break even. The whole reason that they're doing influencer marketing or partner marketing like this is to turn a profit, right? And so they want to pay you a fraction of that, a half, a third, a fourth, maybe less, depending on their risk tolerance. And so this is why it feels so difficult sometimes to negotiate with brands who have a conversion focused metric, because they have this math that they're beholden to. They cannot exceed what's called that CPA, that cost per acquisition of a customer. Contrast that with an awareness focused campaign. What are the metrics that they care about that they're tracking? Impressions, views, opens, engagement, comments, on the newsletter, or on the blog post, whatever. Are people excited? Does it seem like there's a groundswell of support for our tool? So I say the metrics are just a lot squishier. And so your negotiating leverage in an awareness focused campaign is so much higher than in a conversion focused campaign. Just for a second, let's discuss repurposing. If they come to you and say, hey, after you generate this series of blog posts on our tool, we'd love to repurpose those and put it in our newsletter or something like that. You should come to them and be like, well, you know what? If that's the primary thing you care about, I don't even need to post these on my blog. I'll just write you a series of posts for your newsletter. And I can make 10 times as much content, because I'm not going to be worried about exposing my audience to this tool too much. I become a walking billboard. It's going to be 5 times, the investment, but it seems like that's what you care about. And guess what? The amount that you can charge is now completely detached from your following on the internet, because that's not what they care about. They care about getting content for them to repurpose.
Okay.
Sorry. And so this is why it's so important that you insert this step into the conversation when you're determining your pricing, because it has to change.
Yeah. Does that work basically just in the same way if you're creating content on YouTube or if you're recording podcast episodes, is essentially the same thing. You're going to create this stuff, and they're going to use it on their stuff if they want to on their websites.
100%. Yeah. I mean, if you're making video content, this is very common. If someone, let's say you have a podcast, you have a video version of it, and they say, well, we want to get a clip of you talking about us and repurpose it into an ad, right? Like on Meta or TikTok or something. And they let us do that. You could say, great. You know what? I don't even have to do a podcast integration. Knowing that that's your goal, I'll just make you 5 ads.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to be, this investment is much easier. Right. And so again, like you will be so surprised at what brands say when you have this conversation, when you ask them this question. Let's get down to brass tacks though, because I know folks listening to this are probably going to be like, okay, great, Justin, that's helpful. But like, sometimes I ask brands that and they don't want to get on a call with me, or they just be like, no, just give me your number. And so I have a very unscientific piece of advice in this scenario. It is, rather than asking brands their budget, which is what a lot of people try to do, it's much more useful to ask brands about their budget range. And the reason for this is it's saying it in a very specific, hopefully you get a lot of, additional context about the deal. And then when they try to back you into a corner and ask you for your rate, you could say, great, I'm going to go back and I'm going to put together a proposal, a custom proposal. This is what I do for my partners. And I'm going to put together 3 to 4 packages to give you a sense of how we could bring this partnership to life. Do you have a sense, brand, you're saying this is the brand, do you have a sense of where I should set those 3 to 4 tiers at from a budget feasibility perspective? Yep. And then you shut up. You don't say anything else. And you just let them. And the shocking thing, 75% of the time, they will tell you a range, David. I've done this across hundreds of negotiations. My students and clients have as well. And the reason that brands well, first of all, if you ask them their budget, just, hey, what's your budget? What are they don't want to tell you, right? It's because if they say 10K, what's your number going to come back with? 10K, right? And then they don't have any wiggle room, right? Because you have to remember, they're probably not just negotiating with you. They reached out to 20 other people. And so they have this larger budget, 100K or something, or 50K or whatever for marketing. And they're trying to Tetris the budget together. Again, this is what I had to do in the agency, right? Is we were going to do 10 partners, 100K, and everyone charges differently. So this person's coming in more, this person's less. And so you're coming down to it. And like, if you only give them one number, when you get down to the very bottom, and if you're just too much, they can't move forward with you. And so instead, if you have a couple different packages, at least one option for them to move forward with you at, you're going to come out ahead. I talk a lot about how sponsorships, it's not about hitting home runs every time. It's about hitting singles and doubles and triples. Sorry for my American baseball analogy here, but like, my wife and I have been able to build this very long lasting business with sponsorships because we understood that it's like a well-diversified stock portfolio. You're not going to get amazing dividends on every stock. It's like some are going to be big winners, but some are just going to kind of keep the lights on, pay your bills, your utilities, all that. And so this is the philosophy that I really encourage people to employ when trying to set pricing.
Brilliant. Love that answer. Yeah, talking about packages, I always think I've heard someone say that if you give someone one package or one offer, their decision is, do I choose this offer or not? And if you give them more than one, it's which one do I choose?
Exactly.
So it changes changes their mindset. That's brilliant advice, Justin. I love that because I read that in the book as well, talking about the ranges, and it's so simple, but it just was like so obvious. And when I read it, of course, that's a better approach. And speaking of sponsorships, again, you've got a big event coming up very soon. I think in March.
I do.
Tell us about what you're going to be doing.
Dude, I'm super excited for this. So going back to the whole idea about content or educational modalities, I thought, what's another big way in which people learn? In person, right? Getting to, talk with other people who are also doing the same thing. And so I decided to create this event called Sponsor Games. So I if you haven't noticed yet, I'm someone who enjoys I don't take myself too seriously. I like doing things that are fun. And so I basically wrote a list of like, what are all the things I hate about conferences or in-person events? And so, for example, number 1, I hate boring keynotes and panels and workshops where I'm just sitting there and I'm really like kind of checking emails under my phone or whatever. And so I was like, okay, we're not doing any of that at Sponsor Games. Number 2, what else really sucks at conferences? Food. Food always sucks at every event I've ever been to. So we're going to spend a disproportionate amount of the budget on amazing catering. And so like, I just went down the list of all these things that I wanted to do the opposite of. And so the format of the event is I took my 8-step framework that I talk about in my book, Sponsor Magnet, called the Sponsorship Wheel. And I turned it into 8 games that you play
Nice.
to learn and master the concept. So the pitch game, the negotiate game, you're going to get up and you're going to practice your pitch. You're going to do negotiation role play live with me on stage. So it's a little nerve wracking, but like my philosophy is like, let's rip the Band-Aid off here. Let's practice this stuff before it actually happens. When you're in a negotiation with the brand, and it's a competition. So I basically quiz you on your knowledge on each of the games, and you have a cumulative score, and the top 8 scores at the end of the games advance to the sponsor tank on the final day. And you actually get an opportunity to pitch a panel of real sponsorship, like partnership managers at brands that there are sponsors who are going to be there. And there's a grand prize winner who walks away with $5,000 in cash. So it's super fun, dude. It's so fun. It's right on the Riverwalk in San Antonio, Texas, March 15th to the 18th. And I didn't tell you this ahead of time, but I'm excited to share that if you use the code David500, you'll actually get $500 off your ticket.
Wow. I love it. That's exciting.
So just go to sponsorgames.com to learn more.
Brilliant. That's so cool. I love that. It sounds, when you describe it, it sounds like a really fun game show that I'd want to watch and be part of as well. So yeah, you're so right, Justin. Like boring conferences, I've been to them before as well, and you don't want to be there. You want to get away as soon as possible, but that sounds like the kind of thing that would be so exciting to be at. And people can sign up now, can still get tickets for it, yeah? You
can still get tickets. Yeah. We have a limited, so there is a fixed amount of seats, and we do still have some seats available. Yeah, dude, to your point about like the boring conferences, I think at the end of the day, what I really tried to, the thing that I always loved about good conferences was the hallways. It was like, I would go out there, I would talk with people, I would network. And I was like, how can I just like encapsulate that experience in an event? And so that was the first principle that we tried to employ on this. So yeah, so this is our second year. Last year was the first year. And yeah, we're doubling attendance this year. The other thing I forgot to mention is every meal is included: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. Perfect. Like fully catered. So you don't have to like spend basically any money once you get there. Man, it was literally, it sounds super hyperbolic, but it was like one of the best weeks of my life. Like it was so fulfilling, dude.
Brilliant. I love it. Justin, you're doing so much. You're bringing books out, you're running these events, like you're doing all the stuff you're already doing. You're a busy man. I wanted to ask just 2 more questions, if that's okay. So first one, based on everything that we said, if someone's listening to this today and they have a Substack audience or wherever they're listening to this at the minute, maybe YouTube or on a podcast, and if they want to take their first step towards getting a paid sponsorship, what is the first thing you would advise someone to do?
Okay, I'm going to give an answer that's going to seem like it's out of left field. Learn more about your audience. I think a lot of times we sit in a room and be like, which brands would be a good fit for me, right? And we just feel unsure because it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they'd be interested. I don't know if my audience would dig that. And so the first step that I encourage you to do is send out a survey. Send out some sort of what I call a psychographic research survey, where you ask them 5 to 7 questions about like, what's going on in your life? What types of jobs do you have? Are you married? Do you have kids? What's keeping you up at night? What problems do you have? What brands and tools and services are you using and loving right now? And so you're asking, I do go over this in the book a bit, but like once you get data back, you might start to realize, wow, I didn't realize that 30% of my audience are homeschooling moms or something. I didn't realize that. I thought it was, something entirely different. Maybe I should go out there and forge a deal with a reading app that helps kids read. Nice. That's a little orthogonal to my content a bit. But like, I think I could probably figure out a pretty creative integration for this, knowing that it's serving my readers, serving my audience. And so traditionally, I think a lot of people feel pigeonholed into only working with the brands that are like very, very relevant to the type of content that they create. And it's like, I can't even really go outside that box. But once you involve your audience and learn about the challenges that they're experiencing, now it feels awesome doing the sponsorship, because it's like, oh, I didn't realize that. Let me actually go out there and show this brand, hey, I've got 40% of my audience that are having this challenge. The thing that your product solves. Let me expose them to all my audience to your tool. And then when you do the sponsorship, you're gonna feel great because it's like you're serving them, you're solving a challenge for them. And so I come back to this philosophy. It's like you don't need to have ambiguity around this whole process. Let's just eliminate uncertainty. Let's involve our audience in this process, and good things will happen.
Love it. Brilliant. Justin, I'm going to let you go in just a second, but one thing I always do at the end of these podcast episodes is just ask the person I'm interviewing for one single line or a couple of sentences of advice for someone who wants to learn how to write for a living. This is what the podcast is all about. So if you could kind of leave someone with just one thought today as they finish listening to this episode, what would it be? Put you on the spot.
I think my book will become my legacy. And I think there's very few content formats that will survive in an age of AI other than books. And so if you're someone who wants to write for a living and you have not published a book, I think that it will be the thing that will weather and stand the test of time. Books are still revered and will continue to be revered as a format that people treasure. And so I think it's worth the investment of time and energy.
Brilliant. That's really good to hear as a writer. But yeah, I definitely agree. And yeah, brilliant advice. I loved it. And everything in this episode today, Justin, was so good. I know this is something people are interested in. They want to monetize stuff. They want to find out how they can connect with brands. And the advice you've given is phenomenal. It's so good. Again, check out Justin's book. If you listen to this, check out his YouTube channel. Justin, is there anywhere else people can go to find you, or is YouTube maybe the best place to go?
Yeah, YouTube's great. My business is creatorwizard.com, and I have a lot more info on like my services and all that there as well.
Perfect. Brilliant. Justin, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, and I'll catch you real soon.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.